Hello, welcome in. Guerilla Sports Off Ice Friday, Valentine's edition. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, Chloe Thiel here in the building as well. Brought to you by our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you lower your interest rate and get a better monthly payment. Go to trustedamerican.com right now to see how much money they can help you save today. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm looking at the wrong camera. How's it going, everybody? Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley. If this looks or feels weird, we've switched chairs. I feel very uncomfortable over here, but you know what? We're trying new things, Meghan.
I feel already more comfortable.
Then, hey,
People ask you, what's your good side? And I would say, I don't have one. And John told me one day, you'll find out. Like, no, we all do. And he was correct, I think.
well, if you're comfortable over there, then we're sticking with it. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, Chloe Thiel behind the glass today. Meghan, we're just going to have kind of a fun, it's Friday, it's Valentine's Day. The NHL is on a pause. We've got some fun Four Nations games to go over. I guess just let me ask you, what'd you do with your first week of the break?
Not a whole lot different from what I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Even without regular Avs hockey, started watching Four Nations facing off and doing some behind the scenes stuff to get prepared for some really cool hockey content coming up here. Got a DU game tomorrow for any Pio fans out there. We'll be covering that.
Woo.
But yeah, it's been a good week of planning, I would say.
Yeah, it's been, you and I were joking last week. Everyone's like, oh, what are you doing with the break? Like working, but I don't have to go to the rink,
which has been kind of nice.
Look, I was talking about this with my sweet, sweet mother. Cause she asked, how's it been? How's the break? And I just said, it's been amazing.
Yes.
This is the exact time of year and length of a break that I like. This job is funny because, how long you've been covering? This is 5 years now? 4 years? 4 years. Like, and so you're at the point now where like you're totally in the groove of the season and the grind and all of it. And by the time you get to the end of it, you're wiped. You're so spent, especially because if you're lucky enough to cover a playoff team like we are, you go into the summer, and especially if you go on any type of run, really anything past the first round.
Yeah.
It's all so compressed, and it's practice and it's travel and it's game days and it's travel and then it's practice and it's game day and it's morning skates and it's it's such a compressed schedule, and the stakes are so high. The emotion for everyone, in the buildings, in the locker rooms, all of that stuff is all so draining that by the time you get to the summer, you're ready for a break. But it's so funny because I usually am. It's usually about 2 to 3 weeks in. I'm like, oh man, I miss being at the rink.
Yes.
And by about 4 to 6 weeks, you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready for it to be back. I'm ready to have things to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. So this has been really nice because we get 2 weeks. We're coming up on the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to talk about. We're still in the middle of the season, but it also gives us a long enough break away from the guys that it's not repetitive questioning anymore.
Yeah, because it's been so up and down. The questions still are repetitive with the up and down, but there's only so many times after a bad loss that you can ask, so what kind of adjustments do you need to make for next game?
Or what was different between tonight and a couple nights ago where things went so
when
well?
You won.
Right. And the Avs went through that stretch there where it genuinely was through January. Win one, lose one. Win one, lose one. So there wasn't even like trends that we could talk to them about. So this has kind of like been a nice... This has been perfect. I've loved this.
I think the timing is great because I already can't sit still. Like I still
Mhm.
want to be doing hockey, but there is hockey to watch and to cover, thankfully too, with the Four Nations break, but in addition to other hockey. So it's not totally absent from my life. It's
Right.
a little longer than the All-Star break, and I'm more interested in Four Nations than I am in the All-Star break.
Oh my
In the
goodness.
All-Star game, All-Star festivities.
We're going to get into that. We are going to get into that. Believe me. There's a chat in here. Hope you all are getting some sleep. I'm going to use this opportunity to apologize to everyone in the office. I've definitely been coming in later this week, but it's just been like, I don't have to get up for anything. So I'm taking advantage of the extra 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, move a little bit slower in the morning, but sorry, Chloe. That's my bad. Ooh, she doesn't like that. See, Liv wouldn't have done that. Megan, let's talk about it. Let's get into. Well, I guess let me ask. Any other thoughts on just what you've done with your free week here?
I cut my own hair, and I probably shouldn't have done that. So
it looks fantastic.
There are upsides and downsides to like having some free time. You got to be careful there.
Someone left Megan alone with the scissors at night.
No,
Son of a bitch.
No, exactly. Like I start DIYing things that I should go to a professional for. So
I'm just picturing this starting as you like, I'm going to fix some stuff up around the house. At the end of the night.
That's actually exactly what happens.
Now, did you do it like Mulan with a sword or did you use scissors?
No, I use scissors.
It always seemed like an efficient way to get a straight line.
I love so much about the way Mulan, the beauty is depicted in that movie too. Like when she wipes away makeup off her face, that's how I imagine taking makeup off my face at night too.
Have you ever had makeup come off in one clean sweep like that though?
No, but if you get a makeup wipe, you can kind of use your imagination and it feels similar.
I love that. Let's talk.
At least I didn't end up with bangs.
Hey, yo.
Vaguely, you are correct.
So true.
You are correct, thankfully.
That would have been especially wild had you come up with bangs, given the amount of conversations we've had around them.
And what they mean.
If you would have come and been like, well, hold on, guys, hear me out. I would have been like, whoa, on Valentine's week.
Yeah, we're going to do an intervention.
We'll actually invite all of you to come down to the studio and sit around with everyone. You mentioned that you were able to watch some Four Nations this week.
Yes.
And it's maybe been my favorite part of stuff this week on the break is I'm just getting to watch and enjoy some great hockey and not having to worry about having an instant, analysis or reaction to it or, any of that. It's just been really fun. Broad strokes, 10,000 foot view. What have been your thoughts of the first two games?
It's so much more fun than I expected it to be. And that, is maybe me needing to take accountability of where I set my expectations and why. But even with, some worry around players that would or would not play, I think it ended up more favorable that there are at least a few more players in the tournament playing than I thought. Crosby was questionable. Rantanen was questionable. Sad that Quinn Hughes isn't on Team USA, but I think the whole of it has been fun now through both games. I've enjoyed it. I think that being a fan of hockey also makes me appreciate it from a different lens. I'm an American citizen, but these are all players that I love on every single team. And so it's fun to see these highly skilled, best in the NHL players. I'm kind of rooting for a little bit of everyone. I know that's probably controversial.
Just hope everyone has fun, eh?
Exactly. That's what made it fun is you're right. I don't really have a stake in this.
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch really talented hockey players be talented. And obviously seeing McKinnon playing with Crosby and Makar out there, being a stud of a defenseman and getting some recognition that he does normally get. But sometimes I think people forget that in addition to being such a threat of a playmaker, he is a highly skilled defenseman in his own end too. Seeing Taves and Makar come away with 20-minute plus nights, I'm like, yeah. One, don't know how I feel about that. But two, that's what they are to the Avs. It's kind of fun to see that be what they are to Team Canada too. So that was longer than you expected, but I am loving all of it. Represented by each country, I find a little bit of something I love on every team.
Well, to your point about, them playing big minutes and Nathan McKinnon playing heavy minutes, I think it's been fun, especially Devon Taves had two grade A plus chances. and then one grade A chance. I wish he would have buried one, because he is a guy who I do think that first game was even like one of those, not necessarily putting people on notice. People are aware of Devon Taves, but I think there is so much, if you don't watch him every day, like, oh, he just feeds off of what Makar does. He benefits from playing with Cale Makar. And I think that was a nice little instance where it's like, no, this guy's legit, and he's going to get to show why on the national stage. So no, I'm totally with you, where it was like this. It almost felt like validating even a little bit of where, like, if you're like the Avs, of like,
yes,
yep, this is what's going on here every day.
And it just, to see how important each was in their utilization, and it's just like 3 represented on just one team that's stacked with talent. Obviously the overtime in question is something I'm sure we'll discuss too, but the bottom line is, it was clear how they even separated within a talented group of players, that Colorado has something pretty special going on at the top of their lineup.
I did think about it for Nate. There's so much of the conversation around all of this is the fact that we haven't had a best on best tournament in 9 years. And there's this entire generation of elite NHL players who never got to do it, who have never gotten to play in best on best. You look at a guy like Steven Stamkos, who did not make Team Canada. Steven Stamkos' NHL career will start and end with him never having been able to play in a best on best, despite the fact that he definitely would have had the NHL gone to the Olympics in the last couple of seasons. And I believe he was hurt during the World Cup. I think that was the other part of like the lore with all of it. But my point of this is, I was watching Nathan MacKinnon getting double shifted in overtime and being the guy that players deferred to, and scores the first ever goal in Four Nations tournament history and all this. And I was just like, what a wild moment for Nate, a guy who's won a Stanley Cup and won an MVP and is the face of a franchise and, is so highly regarded around the league, to like suddenly you're the face of Hockey Canada. Maybe not the face. Sidney Crosby, as we'll get into with this, is still the face of international hockey. But like, you're one of the guys on this star-studded Canadian team. Nathan MacKinnon is still right at the top. And I was just sitting there thinking about like how crazy that must be, one, for him. Like, what a wild experience that must be, that in overtime he's getting double shifted over Sidney Crosby. But then also I was thinking about it for Avs fans, because for years you'd have to go back to 2002 when Joe Sakic was the guy for Team Canada at the Salt Lake City Olympics. For so many years, the representatives for the Avs on these international teams were guys, Matt Duchene was the 1C in Colorado. He was the 13th forward for Team Canada at the Olympics in 2014. And it was just always kind of that relationship where it was like, yeah, the Avs best players, they go and play on these international teams, but they kind of just fill in, here and there. Like, no, these are the guys at the top of the rosters for these all world teams. And I just thought it was kind of cool.
I think it's a graduation too from the way that MacKinnon has viewed Crosby, someone that he admires and looks up to, obviously, to be almost on that same level in terms of sharing this stage and being impact players. To your point, does have to feel really special. And to open the scoring within seconds on the power play off a backhand feed from Crosby has to be just, you couldn't have scripted it any better than that.
And you could see it on his face.
Yes.
Like, we've seen Nathan MacKinnon score some big goals. We've seen Nathan MacKinnon in some great moments. And I think obviously the Stanley Cup and his celebration after that, and even us getting to talk to him last year at the NHL Awards, we've seen some of that, but there was just a look on his face that you could tell was a, 8-year-old Nate.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that was pretty awesome, And let's talk about that first game. The first 90 seconds of that game were electric. I was even like sitting on my couch, like kind of like giddy, like just sitting there laughing, like this is nuts. This is nuts. That we're getting to watch Cale Makar pass the puck to Connor McDavid, pass the puck to Sidney Crosby, who no look backhand throws it to Nathan McKinnon. The first period of that Canada-Sweden game in particular was some of the most fun I've had watching hockey in a while.
It was, in the perspective of it just being purely fun, but also the skill level, the talent, the way that they clearly dominated that game early. I had a very different feeling about where it was going to go, the direction it was going to take. And I'm glad that it became a little bit more competitive with Sweden. But Canada, it was their game to lose. And it feels like just one game in, it's their tournament to lose.
No, I completely agree. I mean, they just look, I think Sweden's got a good team. Finland, despite all the injuries, has a good team. I think the U.S. has a very good team. There's something special about the mixture of players Canada has at the top that even Team USA, as good as they are, you got Matthews and Eichel and all that. Like, it's just the top of the lineup. I still just give advantage Canada, and I'm with you. I just think it's their tournament to lose. And you could tell that Nate was out there buzzing. Cale was out there buzzing. Connor McDavid was flying in that first period. These are all players that hadn't gotten this opportunity before. Not that it was any less special for Sid or Brad Marchand or any of that, but I thought you could just see the excitement from the Canadian players who hadn't gotten this opportunity before. And it just made it really fun.
Yeah, and you can tell they care about it a different degree than they've cared about all-star games in the past. And I think that was kind of a natural reaction. Maybe you were hoping for and expecting with the tournament, but in seeing it in action, just all of the media availability, first and foremost, with Nate and Sid. I don't think I've seen him happier. He just has a permanent smile on his face, and that's authentic. The other part of it too is seeing them staying at practice as the last guys on the ice. You have to kick them off the ice, right? They're just working together one-on-one. He just seems like he is thriving and living his very best life right now. Nathan McKinnon, that is, but also probably Crosby. And that is fun to watch as a fan.
Yeah.
To see a player that is often a little bit serious, just loving life.
I do find it so funny how Nate is the center on that line, though, because he has been adamant that he would play on the wing and Sid would be the center. It's just kind of funny.
I thought it was funny, too, because in utilizing him as the center, they have him taking faceoffs, usually not his strong suit. But as someone has pointed out to me, and I've noticed since the trade, McKinnon's been digging in at the faceoff dot, and he's been coming up with more wins than I've previously seen. And I joke that he just needs to apply himself and put his mind to it. And he's actually not bad at this thing. I just think his mind is finding ways to be better in every facet of his game, that he kind of like leaves faceoffs as kind of the last little piece. But I think he's digging in now. He's like, all right, I need to be perfection.
Thoughts on Team USA? That game in the third period did kind of run away a bit.
Yes.
I was just telling you, I was like, just selfishly, as someone who, like you said, doesn't really have a huge rooting interest for anybody, I want to see these games stay close. So that was a little bit of a bummer that the game like got completely away from Finland at the end. But I think that was definitely a statement from Team USA. They want to beat Canada. They know that they're the little brother, and they want to start changing that narrative. What do you think about last night?
They became dominant later in the game, which I think could be a scary feature of that team, that you can never count them out. And so maybe they didn't have as strong a start as Canada did in their own respective game, but it did make me feel like they've got, when I look at who Matthew Tkachuk is as a player, that's sort of how I think of him, as the type of player you want on your team if you need to get across the finish line. There is just something about the way that he competes that has winning in mind. And I think that sort of showed through in the identity that's kind of forming for all of these teams, but for USA in particular, to come back with strength and a second win and just lay it on Finland. And I think that's going to be a dangerous component, because they obviously get huge performances from both the Tkachuk brothers. But I think to get, the contributions that they do with Werenski getting into the mix, another great defenseman having a terrific year in Columbus. I just have a lot of intrigue around Team USA, and the goaltending, started out a little scary, but I think that can be the thing that separates them in the tournament too. It just made me wonder too about the power of brotherhood. Like, if both the Hughes had been here, would that have been the thing that puts Team USA over the finish line, I guess, so to speak? I don't know, but I think that Team USA probably learned a lot too from that first game and how they started and fell a little bit flat. So I think that every team walked away with some learning lessons, to include Finland. Okay, I love that it's Jokiharju who's their lone goal scorer, kind of this unexpected contributor. And so I think they have so much more to give than we've seen.
Well, and to your point about the goaltending, like that first goal Hellebuck gave up, it's like,
oh
boy, are we in trouble here? Like this, there's still like Alexander Barkov's still on this team, Mikko Rantanen's still on this team, Arturi Lekkonen's still on this team. Like, you need to come up with some saves, not like that. And he did settle in. To me, I made the comment a minute ago about like Canada having the better players at the top. Team USA's best chance is going to come in net.
I agree.
Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, like they've clearly got the best tandem, in my opinion. And Jordan Binnington, people were saying he was great in overtime. I think he was okay in overtime. Yeah. To me, Jordan Binnington in the goaltending situation for Canada is the only thing that they should be looking at going, damn, I wish we would have made some different decisions.
I agree fully, because that did feel like the shakiest part of the game for Canada, and they just got goal support and great performances, but Binnington did not feel rock solid.
No, not at all. I would go as far to say at least 2 of the 3 goals I didn't like. If not all 3. Like a puck should never be hitting the middle of the net when you are square to it. Yeah, I just think that you're probably sitting there looking at Logan Thompson, Mackenzie Blackwood, maybe even throw Darcy Kemper's name into that mix, going, I wish we would have made some different decisions.
Yeah, I think it would have felt a little different. I like Jonathan McMillan's kind of one word to describe each team so far. He's got Canadian speed, US tenacity, Sweden tough. Now he's Finland as participants. I want to give Finland some credit though. I love Sisu and the 200-foot game. It seems like a lot of Finns. I know we complain about Mikko and sometimes this engagement, but I actually think just in who they are as young players, it's drilled into them to be pretty responsible players in both ends and pretty engaged. I know it can be sometimes frustrating for Mikko, and I wanted to see more of Mikko in that game shine through, right? But on the whole, I think the Finns have a good 200-foot game. I think they're just lacking the talent up top the same way as the other teams. And so they're going to have to dig deep, and they're going to have to operate on kind of the underdog component. They still obviously have talented players, but they're really then leaning heavily on Barkov and Mikko Rantanen to lead the way. And it's a lot of pressure and responsibility because the depth just doesn't hit the same as some of the other teams. Obviously, the workhorse Lecky is there too, representing the Avs, and they've got him playing with Mikko. So I think there's more than we've seen from Finland, is what I'll say.
Well, truthfully, Megan, I thought before the game started, I thought Finland was going to win because I thought it was going to be one of those games where there's so many injuries. We've all talked about how depleted Finland is. The roster's just not as good. They've basically had to just use anybody who's a Finnish player in the NHL. But it's exactly what you were talking about. I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, but the Finns have a system.
Yes, that's a better way to describe it.
And they just doesn't matter if it's World Championships, Olympics, World Juniors. God, the Finns just do not go away. And I was sitting there and I said, you get a UC Saros game behind a real pesky Finland game combined with a Lekkonen or a Rantanen or Barker, a goal late. I was like, I think the Finland is going to win this one, and suddenly USA is going to be kind of behind the 8 ball, and desperation and and it just very much did not go that way. But all of that's to say, I agree with you. I think I think that's still a good team.
I like the shout out too with a Heiskanen in the mix.
Totally.
It's a very different team, and I love Heiskanen's defensive game. I think that he's among one of the best defensive defensemen that also has puck moving ability that there is. And I'm sad he's not in this tournament because I do think it changes the picture of that back end, which does not jump off the page at you the same way that I'm like talking about Werenski and Team USA and obviously Cale Makar and Taves for Team Canada. That might be the other separating thing is it's like the talent at the top with the forwards, but also the D.
Yeah. All right. I want to circle back to something that you said about Nate staying out there and working with Sidney Crosby late. I was thinking about this actually when we were, seeing the photos and videos and all that stuff coming out earlier in the week about the power play. And it's Sam Reinhart who keeps getting left out of the conversation.
Yeah.
Sam Reinhart, Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Connor McDavid. And I wondered, when I was looking at that, I said, well, I wonder how much Nate and Cale can take away from getting a couple weeks of talking with and playing with Connor McDavid on the power play. Same thing with Sidney Crosby. And truthfully, same with Sam Reinhart. Like, he's a great player on the power play. He's a great goal scorer. He's 50 goal scorer. What can they learn and what can they take from this that they can then take back to their NHL team of, hey, Connor McDavid might share some insight with you into what he does because you all are trying to win a tournament together.
Right.
And then when I look at Finland, how much is playing with a player like Alexander Barkov going to be good for Arturi Lehkonen, who, again, plays that pesky defensive responsible style of game like Barkov does.
He gets the Selke votes.
Right. But obviously Barkov is kind of a tier above where Lehkonen is. What can Lecky take out of being able to play with a player like that? And I just want your opinion on just that of what is it beyond like us being able to enjoy watching playing, these guys play together. There's been so much conversation about the Avs power play. Well, Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon are getting 2 weeks here. And even Devon Taves are getting 2 weeks here of being up close and personal with maybe the best power play player in the NHL. Watching Connor McDavid on a power play for the Oilers is so much fun. He doesn't really have a set spot. He's truly a rover. And just how beneficial that must be for Nate and Cale.
I think that's a great point about the value of this tournament for our players on the Colorado side too, because on one hand, seeing Nate and Cale both be a factor on Team Canada's power play is like, okay, we need to calm down and maybe overreacting to the criticisms of the power play on the whole. There's some really talented players here. Sometimes the results don't come, but there also is a lot to learn when you look at the record year by year for what Edmonton's power play is. And with McDavid as a catalyst in it, that is a player then you do want to watch closely and see what brings him continued success year by year. What has allowed him to separate as this elite power play player in addition to the other facets of his game. And I look at even just the Nate that we've seen following the trade, for example. The power play already seemed to instantly improve. One of the things I like is that Nate in particular seems a little unchained. Like he is more free to move and rotate, operating off of what Netchus is doing a little more freely. And I think that's something that McDavid does instinctually on Edmonton's power play that I hope will encourage some of that bolder risk-taking, if you want to call it that, variety that Nate can bring back to the Avs power play, because I think the Avs power play in years past has had a little more variety than we've seen this year, and it allows them to be deceptive. And I think that's maybe what's been missing a little bit too, is having just some more options. And it does need to come natural to you the way that it does for McDavid. And so I have to imagine that from Cale's perspective too, setting up then how that works is going to rely on more instinct than before too. And I think obviously with Nate and Cale on Team Canada's power play and it converting, they're capable of this. It's not a skill issue or question. I do think it is good though to have a different perspective on the power play specifically. And for like a Lehkonen with a Sasha Barkov, I think that's a player to look to who, as you mentioned, is a tier above. It's okay to acknowledge that. What does he do that makes him a tier above? You know, that Lehkonen can take away and incorporate into his game and just hope to level up a little bit more in being around a player like that. I also imagine it goes both ways because Nate, you know, his recognition in this tournament, it's very well placed. And so I have to imagine there's a lot of players looking on in awe of what Nathan MacKinnon does on a nightly basis, not just in Colorado, but what he can do for a Team Canada that is kind of newly been joined together here for the first time in a long while for a best on best in that sense. And it's so much fun to watch.
It's a blast. And, you know, your point about we saw the power play improve after the trade. It's not a shot at Mikko Rantanen, but I would even say not only do I think Nathan MacKinnon's unchained, I think they were like, hey, Nate, we added another right to this power play. We don't have a chain for it. You have to rove around out here. And I do think that there was maybe a level of, and this is a little bit speculating, of course, between Nate, Cale, and what Mikko could do on the opposite wall. I think there was maybe a little bit of like, these are three elite enough shooters. They can just sit there and unload shots. And it led to guys not moving. It led to passing lanes being filled. It led to stagnation, and it led to predictability. And if you couldn't get a perfectly clean shot off, you weren't threatening at all. Marty Netchis, we no longer have that guy on the right side, or left if you're in the net looking out, on the right side, you know, who can just rip one-timer. So we have to get creative with where everyone's standing. Connor McDavid is not a big one-timer guy, which I'm going to circle back to in just a minute. Connor McDavid's he's not a one-timer guy. For all the things that I'm sure he can take a fine one-time slap shot, but for all the things that Connor McDavid does that, you know, leave your jaw on the floor, he's not a big slap shot guy. So that's why he's constantly moving. He's not just sitting up in one place loading up. He's constantly moving on the power play, constantly finding soft areas of ice, constantly darting through lanes and creating deception and creating new targets. And all of that freewheeling movement draws eyeballs to him. Then suddenly the puck's on his stick and there's three guys that are wide open. And I wonder if, one, to your point, Megan, that's already what we've seen a little bit of Nathan MacKinnon's realization of, well, damn, when I'm moving, it's a lot harder to cover me.
Right.
And now maybe getting to work with Connor McDavid and getting to pick his brain on that will just make it a little bit clearer of like, hey, just so you know, I know you're a great shooter from there. You don't have to stand there.
Yeah.
You can be a great shooter from anywhere. And then find yourself there once people have lost track of you, just like what happened with the goal that Canada scored. Everyone got caught watching McDavid and Crosby that by the time the puck got to Nate's stick, the net was wide open. He was wide open. It was an uncontested shot. I think that this can only be good. Even as elite as Nathan MacKinnon is, you can always learn and get better.
Absolutely. Not a shot at Mikko. A player that I think moved more on the power play in the past than he did this year. And I think that everybody got a little too comfortable with what they knew worked for them in the past. And they kind of rested on their laurels, leaned back on their heels a little bit. I'm not sure if that's the right expression, but I do think that's what led to them standing a little bit more in place and just hoping that the shot would continue to be the powerful tool. But Mikko used to move more, and it served him well. So I hope he keeps moving over in Carolina.
Yeah. And
back
with
to
Finland.
Colorado.
And with Finland.
Just kidding.
All right. I hate that we're even talking about it.
I'm ready.
I hate that we're even talking about it. Since October, I've heard nothing in my DMs and mentions from Avs fans, but saying, why won't these guys shoot? Why is Nathan MacKinnon looking to pass so much? And it's even been some of the criticism on the power play. And it was even for years, the criticism of Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and Mikko Rantanen in 3-on-3 overtime. Well, Megan, late in that game when it was 3-3, Nathan MacKinnon said, I'm going to shoot. If I get a lane, I'm going to put it on net. And now a small contingency of hockey Twitter, primarily out of Edmonton, are saying, what is wrong with this guy? The NHL's assist leader is the biggest puck hog in the league. because he looked Connor McDavid off on a 2-on-1 in overtime. And when you go back and rewatch it, I'd be willing to bet Connor McDavid, that was his plan. Don't pass me the puck, shoot it.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on the funny discourse around Nathan MacKinnon being a puck hog.
The context of the season for Nate too has been that he is overpassing, and his one-timer or just his shot generally rewards him so much more than it's as if he was giving himself credit for. And obviously an assist leader in the league is, by the stats, also
Right.
passing the puck a lot, distributing it very well, Nathan. But the issue is, you look at a player who often averages like 5 shots per game. His shooting is down this year.
Yep.
He is genuinely, by the numbers, shooting less. And so from the Avs perspective, we've been crying out for Nathan to just shoot the puck more. And so to see him take the shot, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's cathartic. It's like, that's like seeing him winning faceoffs too. It's like these are aspects of his game that we've been wanting to see lately. And I think since the trade, Nate has been shooting more, which is great to see. So there's almost the sense of, don't you dare get that in his head. We just got him to start shooting again. Don't you dare create this, he shouldn't have taken that shot discourse. He's a puck hog. Nate is a player this year who does need to shoot the puck more, and he's been working on it, and it's been great. And we're not undoing the hard work that has been done following the trade.
Well, and I do wonder if when you bring up the trade, like I wonder if there's another element of, hey, your 55 goal scorer is gone. You got to shoot the puck more. You scored 40 goals last year. 50 goals last year. Shoot it. He had 405 shots last year. 227 shots so far this year with 25 games to go. So pretty safe to say he probably won't get back up to that 400 range. So to your point,
it's about a shot less per game pace this year. And if you look at like 3 seasons back, he was pretty close to 5 shots per game each year. He's around 4 shots per game in terms of pace this year.
Yep.
That's just a big difference. And the shooting percentage is down. And so the shot selection quality maybe hasn't been to his satisfaction, probably creates some reservations that lead to you passing the puck then, deferring to teammates. And it's a bad cycle that you want to break because his shot is better than this year has given him credit for.
Oh, 100%. So 21-22, the cup year, he played just 65 games. So 8 more than he's played right now. He had 299 shots. He's at 227 right now. So again, just more numbers reinforcing your point of, yeah, he's shooting a lot less. And I also think there was an interview that played right as that power play was starting, where they said that they had talked, I don't know if it was the broadcast booth in particular, or what, but had talked with Sidney Crosby, and Sid had told them, yeah, we have had the conversation a few times. We've all reminded each other, hey, someone's got to shoot it. Because this is such a great power play of guys who like to distribute it. You know what I think, Megan? I think Sidney Crosby told Nathan MacKinnon to shoot the puck, and so Nathan MacKinnon is shooting the puck. I think, one, Nate has that much respect for Sid, and two, like I said, I think that they said someone's got to shoot it, and I'd be willing to bet they were out at dinner, and Sid probably told him, "You got the best shot. You got to be the shooter." And so I think Nate is taking that to heart. And as for the 2-on-1 in question, I actually think Connor McDavid was intentionally drifting out to try to force Matthias Ekholm to have to respect the middle of the ice so that you could give Nathan MacKinnon a cleaner look at the net. I don't think Connor McDavid was expecting a pass on that 2-on-1. My guess is that behind the scenes, they've told Nate, you're the trigger man. So when the puck's on your stick and you're in a scoring position, put it on net. And that's what he's doing.
Well, and you look at the whole of the overtime picture, and that is what he was doing. So it does feel by design, because he's being put out there shift after shift, not because he's barking at the coaching staff, because this isn't Jared Bednar, okay? And I'm not saying he does that. We had a conversation off air about this earlier, and I think people run away with that a little too much. What I'm saying is, what is it? It's Cooper, it's DeBoer behind the bench that have a say in who's out there for Team Canada in overtime, and they're saying Nathan MacKinnon, and they're returning to Nathan MacKinnon, and he's shooting one-timers at the net for a reason. And in this 2-on-1 case, it doesn't look like a great passing lane. It does look like Ekholm would have a piece of it. If he did try for that pass, and to your point, I think it is by design to bait not only Ekholm to respect the middle of the ice more, but Gustafsson's eyes to have to choose which shooter will be the threat. And I think that just makes then Nate's shot a little more challenging. And it feels like a great strategy.
That 2-on-1 also comes at the absolute end of a shift. They were dead tired trying to get back up the ice. It looks like we've got a super chat here. Our guy, vaguely sober, $4.99 in the chat. Happy Valentine's Day, GS fam. From your YouTube chat, nuisance, you're the furthest thing from a nuisance. Do we got the lights back there? Blowing it on Valentine's Day. Oh, she's blowing it.
Whoa, good job,
there
Chloe.
We go. She got it. There's the super chat lights. For vaguely sober, $4.99. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Never a nuisance in the chat. Never a nuisance in the chat. One of our favorite chatters.
One of our favorite chatters. We love you on Blue Sky. We love you on Insta. We love you in YouTube. We love you everywhere.
All of it. I want to now ask you about a comment that you made at the very beginning of the show. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
That wasn't me.
There should never be another NHL All-Star game ever again. Ever again. I enjoyed the first 90 seconds of Canada-Sweden than I enjoyed the last 10 All-Star games combined.
It's really tough to see, like, oh, it could be like this.
Right.
Because I would tune in for All-Star game festivities. I love hockey. And so I'm going to be tuning in. That's just, they've got this loyalist in me. But I don't enjoy it to the same degree that I've enjoyed Four Nations. This just feels so much more meaningful for not only me as a viewer, but for the players. To your point, they clearly care about it more. It translates to what they're doing on ice. And I love this shout out about the value that the players themselves can take away from some of the talent that they're getting to play with in this tournament. And so I just see upside at this point.
And getting to play alongside with for something that matters, like a win that counts for something that means something to the players. Like the NHL, and look, I'm not blaming the NHL. All-Star games are a tough thing to pull off. Like, it's a tough thing to get people to care. But they've tried so many different things to try to get the players to care. And we've talked to guys before, like, oh, do you go to the All-Star game? And can you work on any tips with any guys? And they've all said, like, guys are kind of guarded. You're only there for the weekend. You're not playing for anything that really matters. No one's going to give away any secrets. Not that Connor McDavid's going to give away like an Edmonton Oilers power play secret, relative to what we were talking about, but like he wants
secrets,
to win, right?
Planting bad information.
Yeah. No. And just don't ever move.
Yeah. Conserve your body.
Right. But they want to win. Like, these are competitive games. And I think you saw that right away with both games that we've seen. The intensity level is up. Guys care. Guys want to win. And so, they're going to help each other out and make each other better players for these 2 weeks. And I just think that this is such a better way of doing it. The players who are picked to go there actually want to go and actually want to be there. And it gives us a fun product to watch for 2 weeks. And it's not just some throwaway money grab event that people aren't interested in, and is a break that's too short for players who aren't selected to do anything of meaning with anyways. And yet it's too long of a break for the players that are selected, have to go to these cold cold cities in the middle of this break while they're watching all their other teammates go to Cancun and the beach or whatever. And I just think that they did announce that the World Cup of Hockey is coming back every 4 years in the off-year Olympic cycles. So it'll be Olympics next year, then World Cup in 2028, then Olympics 2030, World Cup 2032, Olympics 2034. And to me, you just make Four Nations that year in between. You do every other year for Four Nations. And if there's not Olympics or a World Cup, you do a Four Nations, or I think you should make it Six Nations. And I think you should add Russia in, and I think you should have a Team Europe so that we can see guys like Draisaitl and Marty Netchis there.
Yep.
But I think that's what you should do. I think every other year you should have a Six Nation tournament put on by the NHL that is 2 weeks to do exactly what we're seeing, and then you go World Cup and Olympics in between, and I think you just do away with the All-Star game. This is so much better.
I think when you look at even the merchandising opportunities for them,
yes,
I've never wanted an all-star jersey except for maybe the Team Yellow when Tate McRae was part of the captain.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
I thought about it. But I think because of the other international tournaments, the Four Nations jerseys and merch associated with it can be worn around other things and feel appropriate and fit in. And so people would probably feel more comfortable spending their money on Four Nations related merch. It just has more utility, more use, more legs. And I think that makes a lot more sense. But I did want to shout out the injury side of it too, because, Shea Theodore won't return as an option. And I don't know what Thomas Harley was doing over his Four Nations break, but he had to stop.
Yep.
And Cale Makar's sick now. Who did this?
I've got a conspiracy about this. I'll let you finish your thought, but I've got a conspiracy.
I also, he's allowed to be sick. He's allowed to be sick, but 20 plus minutes from Makar and Taves, it's not remotely close to a break. Not that I expected it to be. That is high usage. I just hope no injuries, no more, come from this tournament, because what a bummer. I mean, we barely got to this tournament, right? People were dropping like flies ahead of it. And I did have this suspicion that before it all kicked off, that maybe players like Amico, who are on the fence and probably sad about the trade still, could easily just say, yep, well, I've been hurt, as evidenced by this last game, so I will not be going. But I think when they got there, they started to care.
All right, I'm going to tell you about my thoughts after we hear this super chat from Aiden G. What are y'all's thoughts on the 10-minute OT potentially being in the NHL sometime? Also, happy Valentine's Day. $4.99 from Aiden G. Got the super chat lights going Aiden again. G. Love it. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Aiden G. Megan, 10-minute overtime potentially being in the NHL someday. I hate it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an 82 game season. I can't imagine the toll it takes on their bodies as it is. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's entertaining and feels like a playoff game, but then the playoff game, you know what I mean? Like, then when it's incorporated in the regular season, it doesn't feel like the playoffs anymore. If it's just become so normal, like, let it be a playoff thing, and let it be full periods in the playoffs. Just
right. Yeah. I just felt like you ended up with players that were really tired. And for me, because the argument is always like, well, it sucks to see games end on shootout goals. A one-on-one, shootout skills kind of is such a lame way to see it end. My counter argument to that is like, sure. I also think it's lame to see games end with 5 or 6 tired players on the ice, dragging ass to get back up ice for the 4th consecutive 3-on-1. And like some, kind of like junky garbage goal because players are so tired and they're not crisp and they're not making the right passes, or a player wraps the puck around the glass and nobody can back check. Like, to me, that's all just as lame as having it end on a shootout.
This is a toxic trait of mine, but I kind of enjoy shootouts. So,
I love them.
So I'm still okay with that being a way that games are decided. And I also look at, in talking about total ice time for players like Makar, it would well exceed 30 minutes easily in that case. But the goalies, they're on the ice the whole time.
Yep.
And so I'm being a goalie advocate here for a second, a goalie ambassador, if you will, since they're not here to represent themselves. I don't think they would like that at all.
Well, and also the league is trying to shorten games, and they've gotten them to a point where they're about 2.5 hours. And I don't think the league would want to make it any longer than that. And like my thing is, like you said, this is regular season. There's 82 of these things. The game's got to end. Like, you got to end it at some point. So I think 5 minutes of 3-on-3, provide some great drama, some great action. And then, let's get to the shootout and let's end this. And let's all, go home. We got, 40 more.
There's probably a game in 24 hours. Let's be honest.
Right. And so, that's, I think the league is doing a good thing by trialing it here. After seeing it once, I'm good. 5 minutes is all we need.
Yeah, I understand people's desire to want to tinker with OT because they feel like it's gone a little bit stale. I will hear other alternatives. Just not crazy about that one.
Yeah. Well, and here's my other thing with it. That overtime was a lot of teams just turning it around. Adding more time to 3-on-3 isn't going to fix that. Coaches have already coached the fun out of 3-on-3 overtime. The game-winning goal was off of like an 80-foot drop pass through the neutral zone. That was Sidney Crosby resetting so he could get a line change, and then Mitch Marner just skated in and shot it, and it went in. Like, adding more time isn't going to suddenly inject the fun back into it. Now, if you said 5 minutes of 3-on-3 and then 3 minutes of 2-on-2 before a shootout, okay, you can maybe convince me on that one. Maybe. But that's because I think that would produce a higher likelihood that the game would end.
I look at the way in which 5v5, they can't always count the right number of guys to put out there. I'm not having a lot of confidence in switching up the number of players in situations in overtime, especially if they are a little bit tired, and the newness of it. I think we'd see some pretty funky results in the beginning. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun. I think the math would be a little tough.
Yeah, I played in a hockey tournament once. Then those were their rules. It went there was 3 overtime, and they were all short. I think they were all 3 minutes. You had 3 overtimes in a shootout. It went 4-on-4, 3-on-3, 2-on-2 shootout. And I remember we all thought it was really fun. We got to 2-on-2 once, and the game ended. But it was just all really, it was a fun thing. And again, there's a tournament, I think, when I was like 15 and we did it once.
One-on-one, just the goalies. I love that.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the only change that I would say I'd be optimistically open to. I'm of the camp. I'm like you. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I think the NHL overtime for regular season is
especially in regular season. Also, Cujo asked about the KHL anti-reset rule. As far as I last look, it was not going well for them. But
really, I haven't looked into it since the first games of the season,
which is when I looked.
I hate it though,
but I didn't like it.
I hate that.
I think it just killed what was supposed to be like, this is now a new and entertaining product. I think it killed that. So here, because this is the other, and Paul Bissonnette was making this argument about what Tanner says here in the chat. 10-minute OT would be way better. Teams would just have to adjust their strategy and not shorten the bench as much. Oh, all right. So instead of going to a shootout that everyone hates, we can watch fourth liners go toe-to-toe in 3-on-3. We can get Curtis McDermott out there in 3-on-3. Sign me up. Sign me up. Keaton Middleton. Put Keaton Middleton out in 3-on-3. We're 18 minutes. Make it a full 20-minute period at this point. Just play everybody. On one hand, that does sound fun on paper.
Oh, God.
Like, I do want to see Keaton Middleton score the game winner in OT. I do. It just feels like an environment that really needs to be controlled and shouldn't count for points. Like, I kind of just want to see it once. I do want Logan O'Connor, who has been out in overtime periods before, so I don't want to take that away from
someone
him.
Say I'm disrespecting the mayor. Logan O'Connor played a huge role in a 3-on-3 win for the Avs like 3 weeks ago.
And I love it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I find myself rooting for that a little more, a little extra hard. And so I guess to that end, it kind of does exist in the fabric of a strategy. It just depends on the team a little bit.
For sure.
It's hard to not go to McKinnon.
Well, I was going to say, but we also can't forget who was on the ice with Logan O'Connor. It's Nathan McKinnon and Devon Taves. So you can mix in a player like that. But if you're taking the OT period too long and the idea is, well, no, just put out some of the bad players, the league doesn't want Keaton Middleton out there going toe-to-toe with Curtis McDermott in overtime.
Did they tell you that?
No, they don't have to. Like, the Gary Bettman was probably doing cartwheels out front of the Bell Center when the scoring line was announced as Nathan McKinnon from Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid. He was like, yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. Everything we wanted for this tournament unfolded on the first goal of the game. And I just, the league wants the best players on display. I think that's what 5-on-5, 3-on-3 overtime does. And it's what the shootout does.
Yeah. I mean, I've already revealed myself to be a shootout enjoyer, so I don't disagree with you. I just want to see Keaton Middleton score a game winner as well.
Just a clapper from the red line. Also, as far as the KHL turnback rule, that is another rule that would have nullified the Canadian game-winning goal. We want to see more goals in this league.
Yes,
not less.
That is the bottom line. I know the league does want that.
Jesse doesn't want to see a Miles Wood Mendoza style breakaway. I stopped. I call him Luis Mendoza all the time. Megan hears me call him Luis Mendoza.
I do. It's true.
He just flies up the ice and then hits the boards. And it's like, stop using your feet. You don't have to run into the wall. And it just cracks me up. Megan, got anything else today? Valentine's Day?
I don't think so.
We should have brought Valentine's Day boxes into the office.
Oh no, we should still do it Monday. I'll bring an extra shoebox for Andy.
For Andy,
yeah, who won't be participating.
The fun sucker, yeah.
Yeah.
Chloe, are you down for that? Monday, Valentine's Day boxes on your desk.
I might have to bring a different.
Oh my God, Chloe
box.
doesn't want to either.
I actually don't think I have any shoeboxes, so I might have to bring a different container.
I thought that was a no. I thought you were like, oh.
I know.
Oh, okay. All right.
The look, I thought Chloe was saying like, yes, I'm down to clown.
Oh, see, I was looking at it as like do we want to do that? And I was like, wow.
It was more like, do you even have to ask?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, apparently I did have to ask. So work on your facial expressions.
Maybe if it arrives in time, I'm wearing it on the show the minute it gets here.
And even if it shows up during the show, I'm making her put it on over all of her clothes.
Good.
All right. I think that's it.
I think that's good.
Hey, if you've got the Qdoba app, you and your significant other or just friend can go into Qdoba tonight and buy one, get one free.
I did want to tell anyone out there who doesn't have a Valentine, happy Valentine's Day from me. I love you.
What about people who do have a Valentine?
You are also loved.
Oh, damn. I thought you were going to go with something.
By me and your partner.
Hey, there you go. Well, we all love you,
There's just
Megan.
a lot to go around.
Megan's got a lot of love to give. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
My wife and I are going to Qdoba tonight. That was why I said that. They're not a sponsor or anything. They're just maybe, hey, Qdoba.
I'm confusing it with the Halloween tradition too, where you have to dress up like a burrito for Chipotle.
Yep. I don't know. I think Qdoba also. And I actually remember that it used to be at Qdoba that you had to go in and kiss someone at the counter.
Oh no.
And you got your entree for free. But I think for obvious reasons that just like, I remember going in there in high school and people were like, literally they'd kiss the person. Like, can I kiss them? And if they would both kiss, they'd just both get free burritos. So having to have the app and like to scan a code seems like a little bit, I feel like they had to stop that around COVID.
Yeah.
You can't just be kissing anybody.
That's a tough
online.
stipulation.
I agree. I love a burrito, but I would not kiss a random person in line
chat's
for
getting
one.
wild with the Middleton game winners.
Yeah, this one,
guys,
this one
we gotta end
Middleton
this.
with 100% score, Michigan goal in OT, and Jesse's taking that away from us. We're gonna end it. You don't have to kiss anyone random to get a free burrito. But I hope you all do have a great Valentine's Day. Enjoy your weekend. 2 Four Nations games tomorrow. Finland and Sweden in the afternoon, prime time in their native countries, and then prime time here in the U.S.
Like
we got
that.
Canada. Yep, Canada, U.S. tomorrow night should be a great one. Looking forward to it all. She's Meghan Angley. We got Chloe Thiel behind the glass, and Ruben Villalobos also back there, just
Ruben.
showing up. I'm Jesse Montano. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to y'all on Monday. Have a good one.